The moment you open your mouth, people judge your strength. People don't judge your strength when you lift weights. They don't judge it when you post achievements. They don't judge it when you talk about your goals. People judge your strength the moment you open your mouth. Your voice, your tone, your choice of words, your reactions, your timing, your silence. All of it becomes a psychological X-ray of your character. And most men fail this test without realizing it. Not because they're weak, but because they speak like someone who wants approval instead of someone who commands respect. Machiavelli understood this perfectly. The first impression a prince gives is through his words. Your conversations expose everything. Your insecurity, your fear of conflict, your hunger for validation, your lack of boundaries, your need to please, your emotional instability. And once people detect weakness in your voice, it doesn't matter how strong your body is, how smart you are, how talented, your authority collapses. Because respect is not built on who you are. Respect is built on what people feel when you speak. This video is about 9 conversation mistakes that instantly make you look weak. Not someday, not after a long time. Instantly. You've made them. I've made them. Every man has, until he learns the dark psychology behind speech. And once you see these mistakes, you'll never unsee them again. Let's begin. Nothing exposes weakness faster than over-explaining. When you feel the need to justify every word, every decision, every action, you signal one thing: I need your approval. That is the death of authority. Strong men speak clearly. Weak men speak endlessly. When someone questions you and you start rambling, repeating yourself, trying to sound reasonable, trying to make them understand, you hand your power to them on a silver platter. Machiavelli wrote, "The more a man explains, the less he is believed." Why? Because over-explaining is a confession of insecurity. It tells people, you're afraid of being misunderstood, you're afraid of being disliked, you're afraid of being wrong, you're afraid of losing someone's approval. But here's the dark truth. Confident people don't need to be understood. They need to be respected. And respect is born from clarity, not paragraphs. When you say something like, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean it like that, it's just, I hope you don't take it the wrong way. I was just trying to, I'm only saying this because," stop. Every extra sentence chips away at your presence. People may nod, they may say, "It's fine," they may smile politely, but inside, they feel one thing. You fear their reaction more than they fear losing your voice. That is why over-explaining is not harmless. It is catastrophic, because once someone senses that your words come from anxiety instead of conviction, their respect begins to rot. Here is the Machiavellian correction. Say what you mean. Say it once. Say it clearly. Stop talking. Silence after strength is power. Silence after weakness is humiliation. Most men never learn the difference. There is no faster way to look weak than saying sorry when you're not actually sorry. Most men don't apologize out of guilt. They apologize out of fear. Fear of tension, fear of conflict, fear of being disliked, fear of disappointing someone. But every unnecessary apology carries a hidden message. Your feelings matter more than my dignity. People don't respect that. They consume it. They see your apology not as kindness, but as submission. Machiavelli understood this psychological trap. He who apologizes quickly appears guilty even when he is not. When you apologize for things you didn't do, you lower your status, you signal insecurity, you place yourself beneath the other person. You teach them that your boundaries are negotiable, and worst of all, you reward their negative emotion. If someone gets angry and your instinct is to say, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. I didn't want to make you upset. I'm sorry, it's my fault," when it isn't, you train them to use emotion as a weapon against you. Anger becomes leverage. Silence becomes punishment. Disappointment becomes manipulation because they know one frown from them and you'll bend. Psychology is simple. People respect the man who stands firm, not the man who folds at the slightest discomfort. A strong man apologizes only when he is wrong, and his apology is short, clean, controlled. I was wrong. That won't happen again. Nothing more. A weak man apologizes for speaking his mind, setting boundaries, asking for respect, existing with a backbone. And every time he does, he digs his own psychological grave. Remember this: when you apologize for nothing, you become nothing in their eyes. Nothing screams weakness louder than a man who can't stop talking, not because he's confident, but because he's terrified of silence. A powerful man speaks with intention. A weak man speaks to fill the emptiness inside him. Here's the dark truth. The more you talk, the more ammunition you give people to use against you. Oversharing, over-explaining, over-justifying, over-joking, over-revealing your plans, emotions, insecurities. This is not openness. This is self-exposure. And self-exposure is suicide in the world of power. Machiavelli wrote, "A wise man keeps his thoughts in his mind, not in his mouth." When you talk too much, you reveal your fears, your desires, your weaknesses, your intentions, your boundaries, your wounds, your desperation for connection. People don't respect this. They study it, they collect it, they archive it. Because every unnecessary detail you share becomes leverage in someone else's hands. You think you're bonding, but what you're really doing is volunteering private information to people who haven't earned one drop of your trust. Silence is intimidating for a reason. People fear what they cannot read. But when you talk nonstop, everyone can read you like a children's book. You become predictable. You become familiar. You become ordinary. A strong man knows this. Say less than you think. Reveal less than you feel. Never explain your strategy. Never confess your insecurities to strangers. Never use conversation as therapy. Never rush to fill silence with noise. Weak men hate silence because silence exposes their anxiety. Strong men love silence because silence exposes everyone else's. Talking too much is not friendliness. It is fear. Fear of being overlooked. Fear of being irrelevant. Fear of being invisible. But here's the paradox. The man who talks less is the man everyone listens to. Nothing screams weakness louder than a man who can't stop talking. Not because he's confident, but because he's terrified of silence. A powerful man speaks with intention. A weak man speaks to fill the emptiness inside him. Here's the dark truth. The more you talk, the more ammunition you give people to use against you. Oversharing, over-explaining, over-justifying, over-joking, over-revealing your plans, emotions, insecurities. This is not openness. This is self-exposure. And self-exposure is suicide in the world of power. Machiavelli wrote, "A wise man keeps his thoughts in his mind, not in his mouth." When you talk too much, you reveal your fears, your desires, your weaknesses, your intentions, your boundaries, your wounds, your desperation for connection. People don't respect this. They study it, they collect it, they archive it. Because every unnecessary detail you share becomes leverage in someone else's hands. You think you're bonding, but what you're really doing is volunteering private information to people who haven't earned one drop of your trust. Silence is intimidating for a reason. People fear what they cannot read. But when you talk non-stop, everyone can read you like a children's book. You become predictable. You become familiar. You become ordinary. A strong man knows this. Say less than you think. Reveal less than you feel. Never explain your strategy. Never confess your insecurities to strangers. Never use conversation as therapy. Never rush to fill silence with noise. Weak men hate silence because silence exposes their anxiety. Strong men love silence because silence exposes everyone else's. Talking too much is not friendliness, it is fear. Fear of being overlooked, fear of being irrelevant, fear of being invisible. But here's the paradox. The man who talks less is the man everyone listens to. There is a moment in every conversation where your true status is revealed. It's not when you speak, it's not when you finish a sentence. It's the moment someone interrupts you, and what you do next decides everything. Weak men immediately fold. They stop talking, they shrink, they let the other person dominate the space. Strong men don't. Here's the dark psychological truth. When someone interrupts you and you allow it, you announce to the room that you are subordinate. You might not say it out loud, but your behavior does. Your voice matters more than mine. Your presence is higher than mine. I don't deserve the space I was using. People feel this instantly. Interruption is not random. It is a form of dominance testing. Machiavelli wrote, "Men reveal their boldness through small offenses. Interrupting you is the small offense that reveals a lot." It's not about volume, it's not about speed, it's about hierarchy. When someone interrupts you, they're saying, "I don't need your permission to speak. I control this conversation. Your words are less important than mine." But when you stop speaking the moment they break in, you confirm their belief. You reward the disrespect, you submit to their timing, you accept the lower rank. Here's what powerful men do instead. 1. They continue speaking, as if the interruption never happened. You finish your point, slowly, calmly, deliberately. 2. They briefly pause after finishing, not in fear, but in silence of dominance. This forces the other person to wait. 3. They resume the conversation on their terms. A powerful man does not rush. He does not compete for noise. He controls tempo. Because in conversation, the one who controls the rhythm controls the frame. Psychologically, when you refuse to stop talking after being interrupted, you send a direct message, "I heard you, and you will wait." It's not aggression, it's authority. And people respect authority more than kindness, politeness, or social obedience. The truth is simple. A man who allows interruptions loses respect. A man who doesn't flinch when interrupted commands it. This is mistake number 5. You let people cut your sentences, so they cut your value too. There is a specific habit that instantly exposes insecurity. Laughing after you speak, not because something is funny, but because you're subconsciously asking, "Did that sound okay? Are you comfortable? Do you approve of what I just said?" This nervous laugh destroys respect on the spot. It tells people, you're unsure of your words. You want to soften the impact you fear. Tension, you want to seem harmless. You want to be liked. You seek reassurance. In dark psychology, this is classified as submissive signaling. Animals do the same thing. They make soft, friendly noises to show they are not a threat. Men do it with nervous laughter. Machiavelli warned, "The man who fears to offend will never command." That is exactly what this habit reveals. The fear of offending, the fear of being misinterpreted, the fear of being taken seriously. A powerful man speaks and lets the words land. A weak man speaks and immediately tries to soften the blow with a nervous smile or laugh. Here's the psychological effect. When you laugh after serious statements, you teach people not to take you seriously. Your words lose weight. Your presence loses depth. Your opinions lose authority. Because the laugh communicates, "I didn't really mean that. Please don't judge me for it." People don't respect that. They interpret it as emotional instability. A man who stands fully behind his words doesn't giggle or smirk or chuckle to make others comfortable. He speaks. He holds eye contact. He stays silent afterward. He lets the other person react without rushing to fix the mood. Here's what you must understand. Silence after your sentence is power. Laughter after your sentence is weakness. If you want to be respected, stop softening your presence. Stop apologizing with laughter. Stop acting like your words need permission. Strong men don't fear how their words land. Weak men try to soften every impact. This is mistake number 6. You laugh to seem likable and lose respect in the process. There is a phrase weaker than any insult, a phrase that instantly destroys presence, authority, and respect. It sounds harmless, polite, friendly, but psychologically it is verbal submission. The phrase is, "Can I say something?" Or, "Is it okay if I add something?" Or even worse, "I don't want to bother you, but..." This is the language of a man who puts himself below everyone else. Here is the dark truth. Powerful men don't ask for permission to exist in a conversation. Only uncertain men do. When you ask for permission to speak, you surrender the frame, you signal inferiority. You elevate the other person's importance over yours. You show fear of taking space. You show insecurity about your thoughts. You show dependence on their approval. People don't consciously analyze this. They feel it. Machiavelli said, "A man lowers himself the moment he seeks permission for what he already has the right to do." Conversation is not a monarchy. You are not a servant waiting for the king's nod. If you have something valuable to say, you say it. Here's what happens psychologically when you ask for permission to speak. 1. You shift yourself into a lower social rank. You literally ask them to validate your voice. 2. You tell them your words might not be worth hearing because you need approval to share them. 3. You trigger dominance in the other person. They subconsciously take control of the conversation. 4. You create a dynamic where your input must be allowed, and once you set that pattern, it becomes permanent. Strong men do not do this. They don't interrupt aggressively. They don't dominate with noise. They simply enter the conversation with intention. A powerful man speaks like this: "Here's what matters. Let me add something important. This is the real point. I see it differently. Direct, clean, steady, no apology, no hesitation, no seeking approval." Because the man who asks for permission to speak is already telling the world he's not sure he should. This is mistake number 7. You speak like a guest in a room where you have every right to stand as the host. There are words that weaken you before you even finish the sentence, not because of their meaning, but because of what they signal. Weak language is how men unconsciously announce, "I'm unsure, I'm scared to offend, I'm scared to take up space, I don't trust my own voice." You've heard these phrases. "I think maybe," "I'm not sure, but," "This might sound stupid, but," "Does that make sense?" "If that's okay with you, I guess," "I'm probably wrong, but." Every one of these sentences is an invisible kneel, a verbal bow, a lowering of your status. Machiavelli warned, "A man diminishes himself with his own tongue more than his enemies ever could." Weak language does exactly that. It diminishes you. Here's the dark psychology behind it. 1. Weak words reveal your internal hierarchy. People instantly know you put them above you. 2. Weak words train people to ignore you. When you sound uncertain, your ideas lose weight. 3. Weak words make your presence forgettable. Confidence is remembered, hesitation is erased. 4. Weak words attract manipulators. Predators look for emotional cracks. Your speech becomes a map of your insecurities. 5. Weak words make you look apologetic before anything even happens. This is why people stop respecting you. A powerful man speaks differently. He doesn't start with, "I think maybe." He starts with, "Here's what matters." He doesn't say, "If that's okay." He says, "This is what we're doing." He doesn't say, "Sorry if this sounds stupid." He says, "This is my perspective." His words are sharp, clean, anchored. They move forward. They don't spin in circles. Weak men hide behind soft language because they are terrified of authority. Strong men don't hide. They claim space through clarity. There is nothing arrogant about speaking directly. It is the language of leadership, certainty, self-respect. Here's the correction. Remove filler words. Remove maybe. Remove I guess. Remove if that's okay. Remove just. Remove sorry but. Remove every phrase that asks for permission indirectly, because every time you weaken your sentence, you weaken yourself. Humans don't follow hesitation. They follow conviction. This is mistake number 8. Your words betray you long before your actions do. If you want to know who holds the power in a room, don't look at who talks the most. Look at who is comfortable with silence. Weak men fear silence like it's a threat. They rush to fill it with words, nervous explanations, forced jokes, small talk, rambling thoughts, anything to avoid the tension. Why? Because silence exposes truth. Silence exposes insecurity. Silence exposes who needs approval and who doesn't. Here's the dark Machiavellian reality. Powerful men do not fear silence. They weaponize it. Silence is a test. Silence is pressure. Silence is dominance. People talk when they're uncomfortable. Strong men let them. Machiavelli wrote, "The man who speaks first reveals his position. The man who waits controls the field." Silence sends messages far louder than words. I do not need your validation. I am not here to entertain you. I am comfortable with myself. I do not fear your reaction. I choose the moment to speak. But weak men cannot handle the weight of stillness. When a conversation goes quiet, they panic. They overthink. They assume they said something wrong. They try to fix the mood. They try to make everyone comfortable. They try to prove everything is okay. And every time they do this, their presence shrinks. Here is the psychological truth. Silence reveals the hierarchy. The person who breaks silence is the one trying to relieve tension. And the person who tries to relieve tension is the one who feels inferior. Powerful men do the opposite. They let the silence sit. They let the silence breathe. They let the silence work for them. Because silence forces the other person to react, adjust, adapt, and reveal themselves. Silence is the mirror that shows who is calm and who is collapsing inside. In interrogation psychology, the rule is simple. He who talks most loses. Why? Because speaking is emotional release, but silence is emotional control. This is why in king's courts, strategic silence was considered a higher form of intelligence and dominance than eloquence itself. So here is mistake number 9. You fear silence because you fear being seen as you truly are. But here is the truth. Power begins the moment you stop running from silence and start owning it. A man who can sit in silence without breaking commands more respect than 1,000 men shouting for attention.